Hello and welcome to Arnie Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Specter of Steephill Cove. Holly Arnold had always been tethered to the sea, an invisible thread pulling her toward its restless embrace. Born and raised on the Isle of Wight, she knew its jagged cliffs and hidden coves like the lines etched into her own palms, but Steephill Cove held a special allure. Tucked away beneath towering bluffs, reachable only by a serpentine path that twisted through bracken and gorse, the cove was a secret whispered among locals, a place where the world seemed to hold its breath. The waves roared against the shore with a ferocity that both soothed and unsettled her. Yet lately, that familiar comfort had curdled into something darker. For weeks, Holly's nights had been haunted by dreams so vivid they clung to her waking hours like damp fog. A woman in white stood on the beach, her silhouette framed against the churning sea, her face shrouded in shadow. She reached out, fingers trembling, lips moving in silent pleas Holly could never decipher. Night after night, the visions intensified until the boundary between sleep and reality blurred. She couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was calling her to Steephill Cove. One brisk October evening, with the sun bleeding into the horizon, Holly descended the path to the cove. The air bit at her skin, thick with salt and the faint rot of seaweed. Waves crashed in a relentless rhythm, their foam glowing faintly under a crescent moon. She stood at the water's edge, boots sinking into the damp sand, and breathed in the solitude. The cliffs loomed behind her, dark sentinels against a sky streaked with violet. All was still. Too still. Then she saw it. A flicker near the shoreline, a figure emerging from the mist that coiled over the waves. It was her. The woman from her dreams, clad in a flowing white gown that billowed despite the stillness of the air. Her hair lashed wildly, a tangle of black against the pale luminescence of her form. She moved toward Holly, steps halting and unnatural, as if pulled by unseen strings. Holly's breath caught. The woman's head jerked up, her face still obscured, and for a moment their eyes seemed to lock. Then, in a blink, she was gone, dissolved into the night, leaving only the echo of Holly's racing pulse and a chill that burrowed into her bones. She rubbed her eyes, willing it to be a trick of the light. It wasn't. That figure was real, for as real as a specter could be. Holly knew it in her gut, the way she knew the tides would turn. She had seen a ghost, and it wanted something from her. The next morning, determination drove Holly to the island's small library, a squat building smelling of mildew and old paper. She pored over yellowed newspapers and dusty ledgers, chasing whispers of Steephill Cove's past. Hours bled into one another until she found it, a single article, brittle with age, dated September 1923. The local girl vanishes near Steephill Cove. Alina Mayfield, aged 20, last seen walking toward the beach one stormy night. No body. No clues. Just a void where answers should have been. Holly's fingers trembled as she traced the faded ink. Alina. The name felt heavy, like a stone sinking into deep water. Who was she? Why had she disappeared? The article offered nothing more, but Holly couldn't shake the image of the woman in white. She needed to know more. She sought out Mr. Jenkins, an old fisherman whose withered face bore the map of a life spent at sea. He sat on a bench by the harbor, pipe in hand, staring at the bobbing boats. Holly approached, her voice steady despite the knot in her chest. Mr. Jenkins, I've been digging into Steephill Cove's history. I found something about a girl, Alina Mayfield. She vanished in the 20s. Do you know anything? He exhaled a plume of smoke. Alina, that's a name folks don't speak much anymore. Why not? His voice was gruff, clipped. Some reckoned she ran off with a sailor. Others said she slipped into the sea, but there were darker tales. Whispers she crossed paths with Lord Harrington. The Manor's Lord Harrington, aye, powerful man. He was. Owned half the island back then. Word was. Alina caught his eye. Last time anyone saw her, she'd been near the cove. Same night he was spotted there too. After that, silence. The people were too afraid to ask questions, afraid of him. Mr. Jenkins tapped his pipe. If you're chasing ghosts, lass, you'd best look to the Manor. Old secrets don't stay buried forever. Holly's next stop was Harrington Manor, a sprawling estate now half museum. Its stone walls rose grimly against the sky, windows staring down like hollow eyes. She wandered its echoing halls, the air thick with dust and history, until she reached the library, a cavern of leather-bound books and forgotten stories. There, among the shelves, she found a diary, its cover cracked with age. The inscription read, Margaret Harrington, 1923 *, Lord Harrington's wife. The pages crackled as Holly turned them, her breath hitching at entries scrawled in jagged script. Margaret wrote of her husband's late nights, his cold demeanor, her growing suspicion of another woman. One passage, dated the night Alina vanished, burned into Holly's mind. I saw him return at dawn, his coat soaked, his hands trembling. He denies her, but I know the truth. That Mayfield girl will ruin us. I cannot bear this shame. A chill swept through the room. The lights flickered, then dimmed. Holly's pulse raced as the diary slammed shut, the sound reverberating like a gunshot. She stumbled back, heart hammering. Someone or something didn't want her reading further. That night, sleep eluded her. She lay in bed, the diary's words looping through her mind, when a wail pierced the silence, a low, mournful cry drifting from the cove. Holly bolted upright, peering out her window. There she was again, the woman in white, standing on the beach, arm outstretched toward the sea. Without thinking, Holly grabbed her coat and ran. The cove was shrouded in mist, the air heavy with the promise of a storm. The ghost stood near a jagged outcrop, pointing insistently. Holly followed her gaze and saw it glint among the rocks. She climbed over, hands scraping against stone, and unearthed a tarnished locket. Inside was a photograph, faded but unmistakable, a young woman with haunting eyes. Alina. A lock of dark hair rested beside it, bristled with time. Holly clutched the locket, a surge of resolve flooding her. I'll find out what happened to you. I promise. Days later, armed with the diary and locket, Holly confronted the current Lord Harrington. He met her in a parlour, his expression a mask of disdain. Miss Arnold, these are old tales. Let them rest. They're not resting. Alina's ghost is real. She's still there, on the beach, because no one's told her story. A superstition, a gust of wind tore through the room. The temperature plummeted, and there she was, Alina, her form sharper now, eyes blazing with grief and fury. Lord Harrington recoiled, his face paling. You can't be real. Alina pointed at him, at Holly, at the locket. Then the air thickened, and a vision unfolded, Alina on the beach, arguing with a man in a dark coat. His voice rose, harsh and commanding. She begged, tears streaming, but he seized her arm, shoving her hard. She fell, her head striking a rock with a sickening crack. Blood pooled in the sand. Panicked, the man dragged her limp body into the waves, letting the sea claim her. Holly's stomach churned. That's your ancestor. He killed her. Lord Harrington sank into a chair. There were rumors, stories in the family. I never believed them. You have to make it right. She won't rest until you do. They plan a memorial at Steephill Cove. The townsfolk gathered under a brooding sky, the wind howling as Holly spoke. She held up the locket, read from Margaret's diary, recounted Mr. Jenkins's tales. Alina Mayfield didn't vanish. She was murdered by Lord Harrington. Her spirit's been trapped here, waiting for the truth. The sea raged, waves clawing at the shore. Then Alina appeared, her white gown stuck against the mist, visible to all. Gasps rippled through the crowd. She turned to Lord Harrington, who stepped forward, voice breaking. My family wronged you. Alina, I acknowledge it. My ancestor took your life, and we hid it. I am sorry. Her gaze softened. She looked to Holly, nodded once, and began to fade, her form unraveling into the wind until nothing remained. The storm stilled. The cove fell silent. In the weeks that followed, the haunting stopped. Holly returned to the beach often, finding solace in its quiet beauty. She had given Alina her voice, laid her restless soul to rest. Yet sometimes, in the whisper of the waves, she thought she heard a faint thank you, a final echo of a spirit set free. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.